So there was a bit of a pause over PyCon, but we're back.
Yeah.
And
Still
in
freeze. Oh right, I remember that. Yeah.
yeah,
Was it always merged? Nice.
yeah, this one was merged. So I think we should go back to this one since we can do some actual change in CPython. Uh, that helps the documentation even if it's not generating diagrams. So
Mm-hmm.
this pull request was about removing the invalid syntax from the documentation.
Mm-hmm.
So the full grammar specification now should not list uh, for example this async for this last one, which raises a syntax error. So it's
Mm-hmm.
hidden from here, but it should still be in the grammar itself. So it does that by uh, changing the highlighter, which hides stuff in the documentation. But there's a
Mm-hmm.
better way to solve this. Pablo says another alternative is to move all these rules to be inside an invalid rule, which I've tried to do, but couldn't get very far because of forced tokens, which are underdocumented, I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
I have no idea what those are.
couldn't get that to work. Uh, so here's a diff that moves uh, some of the syntaxers to their own rule.
Mm-hmm.
Everything works fine except for one thing. Uh, in function def raw. Oh, I guess we should look at the grammar. So in function def raw, there is this forced token, which means that once the parser gets here, it will match this opening parentheses or fail if it doesn't find it. So it gives a nice syntax error. The parenthesis was not found or was expected.
I
Um,
see.
but what was the problem? Right, if we have syntax like this,
Mm-hmm. Oh.
where I guess this part didn't conform to the syntax, so that was the type that was supposed to be the type parameters, but it didn't match the type parameters because this is invalid. So let me put this on a separate part of the screen. So the parser assumed the type parameters were missing because they're optional, and it tried to get the opening parentheses. Does that make sense?
Kind of.
It doesn't really make complete sense to me. I couldn't get it to work before. But there since has been another issue about this, which is improving the error message for empty type parameter brackets. And I think this one shuffled the force tokens around, so there are no longer force tokens here. What else changed? Type parameters got an invalid type parameters
So
option.
so is this an unrelated change that touched on the same
Yes, it
piece of
is.
code you remember? Okay, okay.
Yes, it is. Which will probably make our life easier because it just removes the force tokens here. And I guess the grammar is much easier to read without the force tokens. So I thought I would get this failed attempt, which now cannot be merged, and try to clean it up.
Sounds good.
Let's see how that works. So it should be in a branch called invalid grammar. I'll switch to that. And I'll fetch the latest code. And I'll merge in the main branch, which gives me a conflict in parser.c, which is to be expected. And there's also a conflict in the grammar. Let's see how big that conflict is. So, is the font big enough?
Yeah.
Alright. So what happened here? I have git's merge, like three-way merge turned on. So this is what was there before the merge, and this is I guess the change in main. So somebody else did that,
Yes.
and this is the change I made. So what I did is basically remove these things that say raise syntax error.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Let's make this bigger. And I guess these would be moved to invalid type parameters. So I need to ensure that the things that were removed were the same as before, and it looks like they are.
Real quick, what are type parameters? Are those? Is there generics in Python now? Am I
Yep.
that out of the loop?
Yep.
Wow.
So
Okay.
you can do. It's a nice tangent.
I was trying to Google myself, but it keeps redirecting to parameter types, like type hinting. That is nuts.
So you can do something like this.
That's wow. Is there a way to enforce a contract with this? Like T has addition method or something like that.
Oh. Yeah. So I think you can say this can be, for example, a string or int. And I guess I should run MyPy on it. Oh, MyPy says the generics are not yet supported, so you need to use a different type checker, which I'm not installing right now, but it's valid syntactically at least. And
that's
you
crazy.
can use a protocol right here. I'm not really sure off the top of my head how a protocol is defined, but you can say this needs to have addition. Yeah, so hopefully we'll get that in MyPy soon, or maybe it's there and I'm using an old version or something like that. But yes,
sorry about the tangent. I was just really curious.
Oh, that's perfectly fine. That's actually why we are here. Oh, the project is just an excuse. Alright, so it looks like the things that I removed were not touched by the other commit. I can check with my little selection diff as well. Okay. So I can take whatever was in main and I can remove these things. Since they're already... Oh, and I need to move in this invalid type parameter. And I hope it could go at the end. Right? Are there
No, hang on.
Let me bring stuff
Why are
up.
the stars already like Wait, no.
So that's
It
because...
feels like it's missing a token.
Yeah, that's just a token. You can have a star in there.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So you...
But like the star comes after the parentheses, right? And the invalid type parameter is before the parentheses. So it feels like it's missing a token there. That the order is kind of weird.
there's the OR here. So these are individual rules.
No, I know, but
Right.
like,
Which
what am I trying to say? It feels like they're not in the same level of hierarchy and or depth when parsing a function definition, right?
so
One comes strictly after the other, so they shouldn't be, and they shouldn't be
So which one comes strictly after each other?
like as if I understand it correctly, right? Invalid type parameter is strictly before the parentheses of the function, right?
Yes. So this is all in type parameter, which is inside.
Oh, the type
so
parameters can have stars. Okay, sorry,
Type
sorry. Yeah,
parameters
no.
are enclosed in square brackets, and they can have stars in them. So
Right. Yes, that makes sense. Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure how this works, but you can have something like that.
I see.
I've never used that. I've never really seen it used, but it does something other than just invalid syntax. So maybe this will work. So invalid type parameters now have star, name, and colon expression, or double star,
Mm-hmm.
name, colon expression. And the syntax error for these is you cannot use constraints with, well, this is for a type var tuple, this is for a param spec.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
if you actually do the thing I just showed, this one, so this is apparently called a constraint, and you can't have that.
I see. Makes sense.
And how these invalid rules work is there's two parsers generated from this grammar. The first one skips all these invalid rules, and if the parse succeeds, that's gives you your AST. But if that parser doesn't succeed, Python switches to a different parser which does include these invalid rules, and that gives you a better syntax error.
Okay.
So I guess we don't need to put this up here. So this is a peg grammar, so the order matters. But I guess type param start default cannot.
I mean, I don't think the order matters here, just because they are mutually exclusive, right? They don't have any intersecting.
Yeah.
Segments.
Well, the invalid type parameters check for the stars and the name and then a column.
Oh yeah, no, you're right.
Right, and I don't think you can have a column after colon after these. That's just commas and ending parentheses. So
Yeah.
it should be fine. Anyway, yeah, this is probably good. Okay, let's go on. That's it. Okay, that's all the conflicts in the Python grammar. So let me add that. Now I need to regenerate the parser. So I do make region all. But I guess the problem with make region all is that it tries to compile the conflicted parser.c. Might need to set, I'm not really sure how this works, but there should be a Python for regen, and I'll use my system Python. No, that doesn't work. Maybe if I just try to regenerate the what's it called, pgen. Yep, that's it. Okay, so I just regenerated the parser generator with Python that already exists, and this would also use the Python that already exists. And now I make. And test. I don't know which test actually tests these. Is that somewhere in? Oh, test type params. Right. And we have the same problem as before. So here it was supposed to say cannot use bound with parameter specification, but instead it says doesn't match the expected parentheses. So this didn't really get anywhere. Oops, sorry. Huh.
Well, you can index list and set directly now. You don't need to import typing list.
Yep, you can do that.
Sorry, I'm looking at the documentation while you figure this minor stuff out.
I'm not sure if I can figure this out. So we got rid of we don't have the force tokens now, but maybe there's this invalid def raw is a problem. So this gives us expected indented block, expected colon, or expected indented block. So that didn't do anything.
Which error is it complaining about?
So if you do this,
type var tuple.
It should say cannot use bound with param spec because this is a
param
spec.
I remember that.
And instead it says it's missing this thing. I don't know. I guess moving this invalid type param won't really help anything. Oh. Oh, so moving it above here did make a difference,
We-
it looks like. So if I move it down here, let's see.
I think
Yeah.
your stream has a bit of a delay going on.
Oh, sorry for that. You're looking at Discord?
Yeah.
Not
Well.
sure if I can do anything about that.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Just mentioning it.
So yeah, apparently the order of this invalid type param matters. If I put it down here, I get the wrong error message. If I put it up here, I get the right error message. And I assume
Easy enough
that's because this rule matches just a star and name. Right? So if that matches, the whole rule will be successful. So it will
Right.
not go down to the invalid type parameter. But if the parser tries this first, then it will get to the colon here. I'm still not entirely sure I'm getting all this right in my brain, but that looks like a reasonable explanation of what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So let's see. This modified the parser and the grammar. So let's add those. I'll commit the merge. I'm just merging in the main branch. And now I can look at what's different from the main branch that I just merged. Let's look at the files first. So what's different is the grammar file itself. I do have a test grammar validator that I should be working on later.
3,000 lines?
And parser.c is generated from the grammar file.
Oh, okay.
Right, so if I look at the actual diff, so in the grammar, these race syntax error things are being moved around into invalid rules. So hopefully we now don't have anything saying raise in rules that aren't invalid.
Mm-hmm.
So this should just be moving stuff around. Invalid type param, we saw that. Invalid for if clause. Is this thing? Invalid star expression unpacking. Went down here, I guess. Looks good. And then there's this test grammar validator test that says, oh, that's testing a new grammar validator. So if you give it this grammar that says, you know, start and raises a syntax error, it will raise a validation error saying you cannot have anything that says raise in a normal rule. Now there are the 3,000 lines of changed parser.c because all the number identifiers moved around, so everything's rewritten. And at the very end of the diff there's validator.py that whenever we visit an alternative that doesn't start with invalid, and the node action textually contains raise syntax error because the action is just C code, and we're not really parsing C. So that's a string, and if that contains raise syntax error, then we failed with a validation error.
Sounds good.
And
Sorry about the background noise. There's some work being done outside, and I don't know what it is. And I can't do anything about it.
well, that's fine. I heard something earlier, but didn't
Yeah,
really
they're banging
clean out.
something against something.
Seems
I don't know what it
Discord
is.
is pretty good at filtering that out.
Well, that's good then.
Okay, so this looks like it works,
Yeah.
which is pretty amazing. I don't know where this validator is run.
Maybe test suite.
Let's see if I do something bad, like do a C comment, there is syntax error. Oh, here it is. So I guess when I regenerate the grammar, it'll run the validator, which is great.
Oh, cool.
And in assignment, there is an alternative that contains race syntax error. This is only allowed in invalid rules. This looks like a pretty good error message. I guess I could mark up this assignment better so it's more obvious that it's the name. So if I apply wrapper to this, it grows quotes. Right. So this looks like a change that's ready to be pushed, but there's one more thing we could do, and that's revert the change I made here, because the skipping is no longer needed in the syntax highlighter.
Right. So how do you detect if a rule is a fail state?
A fail state.
Just by like a syntax error rule. Same way as before, or do you
by this
check for?
raise.
Oh, okay, yeah, same way
Right,
as
so
before. Got it.
if it textually contains race syntax error.
I see. So when I'm not sure I understand, because you still need to skip these rules, right? Why do you need to undo your work that you did before? Like, I'm not understanding like why.
Yeah, I see. So the syntax highlighter that powers this page in the docs already skips all the invalid rules.
Oh, okay. Okay, that makes sense. Cool.
So if the raises are now only in invalid rules, they're skipped automatically. Right. So this regular expression should go, and that is that was merged as this commit. So I'll just revert that. guess I should run the full test suite. Just to make sure I'm not missing anything. And meanwhile, I should also look at the generated document. Oh, there's... Oh, that's fine. I should also look at the generated documentation. So this uses Sphinx. Sphinx is quite slow. It's funny how building the documentation almost takes longer than the entire test suite.
How long does Python take to build?
Come again?
How long does Python take to build?
From scratch? On what machine?
Yeah, sure, from scratch.
So, I actually bought a desktop for my work machine. So it's like super powered compared to laptops. And I don't really know how to time it with all the optimizations I have going on. So this looks like it passed, so I'll get that.
Oh.
Let's see, how would I time that? So I would need to clean everything from my build directory.
I mean, you don't need to do this. I was just curious. You don't need to actually do this.
My Ccache. C. So I am using a 10 gigabytes compilation cache just because when I switch to a different branch, I can run make and it'll not compile anything I had before. So this just got rid of 10 gigabytes of data. And then I need to run configure. Maybe I should time that. So this is actually pretty long.
I've never seen a configure script take so long.
So
I also don't mess around with other tools too much.
Right. So Python exposes pretty much every POSIX function you could ever need, but all the POSIX functions are optional. So the configure script needs to check if they're available, and the way it does that is it writes a C source and tries to compile it. And
oh my god, that's so amazing!
Like several hundred checking.
Oh dear.
For header files, yeah, and, for types, and then for SQLite features, and then all the POSIX functions you could ever need. Each one has its own check and its own define macro and stuff like that, and well, it takes half a minute. So then I can run make and time that. And just to not interfere with my recording, my make is actually a script that runs nice and ionize and some more stuff, so that it's lower priority than anything else I have going on the computer. So, and it also gives me a bunch of processes. So if I compile that without a cache on my reasonable desktop, It takes 9 seconds. I think the cache was gone. Yeah, so that's a 10-core desktop with hyperthreading, so this parallelizes really well, so it doesn't really take a lot of time. On my old laptop it takes like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Alright, anyway, let's look at the grammar specification. Oh, I removed everything, didn't I? Oh! I need to run the
no!
docs again. Ah!
Oh no, I'm sorry. I was just curious what
That's fine, we got a laugh out of it. Yeah, so this will take a while again, and this doesn't have any cache at all, I think.
Oh boy.
So Sphinx does have a cache, but whenever there's an error in the docs, it throws the cache away, and the next time it starts from a clean slate. Oh, that wasn't so long. So, there's obviously no race syntax error. There's no invalid rules. So what I can do here is go to the official docs and look at this page, and I can copy this. And then I can copy that and look for the differences. Right, so the differences in the documentation are this got added. That's interesting. So I have it. Oh, I'm not looking at the correct branch. Right, so the latest branch is here, so let's do that exercise again. This is probably the fastest way to take a diff of the render documentation, and it's identical. Which is great. Alright, that's good. Oops. So this looks ready for a pull request.
Nice.
So I'm using the branch name invalid grammar, but I already gave a link to this diff out, so I'll use a different branch name just so this stays around. And I guess I'll rename the branch locally as well. And that would go for this rule. issue. Move raise syntax error. Actions to invalid rules, and make sure they stay there. To avoid the do here. So I will ask, I don't need to ask for review because these two people are Coda owners on the grammar and they're probably the most qualified people to review this.
I don't know how the proper procedure is, so I wouldn't know.
Well, I guess these two people are the ones most knowledgeable about the Python grammar. Pablo has his hands in a lot of pies, so he might be busy, and Lissandros is I think Pablo's mentoring Lissandros, or at least used to mentor him. So Lissandro's actually made a lot of the recent changes. He knows his way around the the grammar. So I definitely want their review from one of them to be sure this can be merged. Just triple check that this looks fine. Looks good. Let's see what's found and the issue number. Goes to this one with right. Let's see if that works. This does not need news because it's not a user visible change, and we have a check that there's a news entry for the change log for every pull request, and I need to skip that. Right, and it looks like there's a MyPy check that's failing.
Oh,
Interesting. I didn't know we run MyPy on the peg generator. That's interesting. So can I run it locally? Yep, I get the same, whoa, same error. Yes, a lot of stuff is missing, but this is the one I need to look at. So
what's the error?
the error is
It doesn't. The rule name doesn't start with invalid. Is that it?
Where is it? Pigeon validator.py line 39 here. So self.rule name can apparently be none at some points. So when we validate a rule, it sets the rule name to a string. A rule name here is a string, and I guess this visit all should only be run inside this validate rule. This shorter. This maybe. that okay? Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff I don't have installed for MyPy, but that's for another time. I can still run regeneration. Actually, how do other rules here? Concern themselves with the rule name? So it looks like, oh, the rule name is used here, but none can be put in a string, so that's alright with MyPy. Or I guess I can just do if self rule name and self rule name starts with invalid.
So the problem is you have an unnamed rule?
No, the problem is self rule name is declared as optional.
Ah.
Right? So MyPy thinks it can be none. I know it can't because validate rule always sets it to a string. But MyPy doesn't know that visit alt is only called from here. So this is just appeasing the type checker.
Right, okay, makes sense.
Hopefully that'll solve this failing test here. Unfortunately, I have to restart all the other tests. Hopefully they'll pass this time. Right, Yella seems to approve of the changes, but I would much rather wait for Lissandros if
Oh, that's quick.
Around. Well, but maybe this will be merged next time we're here. Alright, so that took an hour.
That was an hour already? Damn.
Yeah. Time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
So, is there anything you would like to look at next?
Oh, I don't know. That's a tough question. Yeah, I don't know. There's so many things that could be interesting.
So I have, if there's nothing else to do, I have this grammar index branch, and I guess it would be great to update that, like to merge in main, because it's been forked, I guess, in January and I haven't merged anything since then. So there might be some interesting merge conflicts. And also the grammar has changed quite a bit. Actually not that much. It looks like there's only a merge conflict in compound statements.rst. Where? So what changed? Originally there was this production list. That was incomplete. This this type var now can have a default. That's the change. So various type variables can now have defaults. And I think I can just ignore that. Use the original grammar snippet and rerun the tool. I don't know if that's still in my Git history since it's been 2 weeks. Yeah. There we go. So that something I had in my history that regenerates the grammar, and it looks like now type parameter correctly has the equals here, the optional equals. Oh, that was good. And what else changed? So the grammar snippet grew those equal signs. Oh, it looks like there's so type parameter default here is equals expression, but for the simple unpacking, the star, it instead of an expression, it's star and bitwise or expression, so that makes things a little more complicated. But I guess also a bit more correct, because this type parameter for type var tuple really should have a star before this expression. I don't know if you can start an expression with a star. Anyway, another thing that changed is f-string replacement field. Instead of field expr and star expressions, we now have annotated right-hand side. Guess that's just a change in the grammar. Hello, Blaze. So I was just...
You're muted, just making sure you know.
I'm so sorry, guys. My alarm was set for 8. And anyway.
Oh, is it
Well,
late now? This is really
Yeah.
early morning, isn't it? Just to recap, there's a new pull request up. I don't know if you remember changing the highlighter for the docs to hide rules that raise syntax error.
That's right. Yeah.
So this one reverts it, and instead it moves all those rules to the invalid ones, where they should be and where they're hidden anyway.
Okay.
And it also adds a validator to make sure this doesn't happen again.
That's so cool.
And the reason
Okay.
I was able to do this is because the old problem went away by itself, because somebody merged a change in the grammar that removed those force tokens that we were talking about 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
Yeah, so those went away by themselves. Actually, by the good work
Okay.
of what's his name, Nikita here. So then the problem became quite easy.
Magic.
Yeah, magic. So the pull request is now up. It has 1 review. I want to wait for Lissandros or Pablo to take a look at this, ideally. And it looks like everything's green. And then what I did is merged the main branch into the grammar in docs. So, is there anything you would like to look at, Blaze?
Well, only just the one. I have all of those examples, the string method examples, but that's kind of, it's not super urgent or.
Oh, thought somebody was already reviewing those.
Sadly, I'm gonna have to go here really shortly, but it was a good session
Alright.
regardless.
Thanks for joining. Glad you liked it.
Thanks for hosting.
No problem.
Take care,
And
William.
yeah, take care, you too.
Get well.
Bye.
And I guess if we're here alone, we can just look at this one. So Hugo has some comments. Oh, these are not linking. So you do need to make some changes, and then we can look at it again. So there's this removed file, which shouldn't be removed.
Oh,
And then
did I not see that?
Yeah, maybe you just didn't push.
Oh, okay. I'll take care of that.
And then the
I thought.
stuff not linking issue, like here. Right. So
I must not have pushed. Okay. Let me take a look at that.
right. So let me move this up in my to-do list, and I'll look at it tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing urgent. All right.
Fabulous.
Hopefully, I mean, I haven't looked at it yet. Should we go through the examples? See if there's anything else to change?
Yeah.
Okay, so for people watching on YouTube, there is somebody watching on YouTube. So by the way, we are on the Docs Discord. There should be an invitation on discuss.python.org in the documentation section, and every community meeting should have an invite for Discord. So if you'd like to join by voice, just go here. Maybe I should put that in the YouTube chat. Oops. And I guess I'll treat this more like office hours, so you can ask me any questions about documentation or anything else, and look at that. So this adds examples to string methods. So we have capitalize. If you have an uppercase string and call capitalize, it will correctly do that. If you have a string that... So wouldn't it be better here to use a lowercase digraph? So this Niemeczka. So all this example shows is that the uppercase letters here get lowercased. But if we put in a... I don't know if I can type this, probably not. Also, my terminal is not really showing this well. But if I could put in a lowercase NJ digraph and capitalize that, it should turn it into this. Would that make a better example?
Yes, absolutely.
So
I'm about to switch devices, so I can be on the right device.
alright, let me look in here. So what does this example say? Casefold. I've never actually used casefold. Case-folded strings may be used for caseless matching. It's basically aggressive lowercasing. Scharfes S in German is equivalent to SS, but it's already lowercase. So casefold basically converts it to uppercase and back using a very complicated Unicode standard algorithm. This looks good. Center. We can center a string, we can put stuff around it, we can center it with a smaller number which doesn't change it. That looks good. Count returns the number of non-overlapping occurrences. So spam, spam, spam returns 3. If we start at index 5, there's only 2. If we end at 10, there's only 1. I don't know if we need all of these examples necessarily. So one thing one thing that's not obvious from here is what the 5 and 10 are. Can you actually call count with named arguments? No, you can't. Okay. Maybe it would be nice to add something like this. So if I call count with from 5 to 9. This will give me 0, right? This goes from 5 to 10, so it searches this string. Maybe it would be nice to add this as an example. Or add this to the example. Maybe as a comment that this is what is searched. Well, it does say optional arguments start and end are interpreted as in slice notation. Maybe just a link to slice notation.
Yeah, link is good, I think.
Or equivalent like this. Now this should be the same as this, right?
Yeah. You want to drop that in?
I don't
the
know.
comment?
Do we need examples for this? Because it's a fairly involved operation to do.
I think it's probably nice if we have. I mean, I think whenever there's like permutations or potential permutations, it might help people. Might reduce the cognitive load, right? If you see like several options.
Sure, but the problem here is seeing the 5 and the 10 here and the result here requires me to think about what all this means.
That's true.
So
okay.
I think I can learn better from the text here, and the example doesn't really clearly show what's going on.
Fair enough.
Right?
Fair enough.
Maybe
That's
there
true.
could be a diagram saying, this is the part that gets searched.
Oh.
Like that. If you were teaching people and wanted to get it in. But as it is, this is really harder to follow than the text
That's
itself.
true. Yeah. Yeah, it takes up too much working memory. Right.
Maybe it would be good to space the examples out, right? So this could say return the number of blah blah blah,
and then the illustration, and then
blah blah blah, and give an example. Right. Then maybe reword this a bit. If the optional arguments are given, they're interpreted as in slice notation. Then give these two examples, maybe with the equivalent, or maybe an underline saying, like comment underline saying this is what gets searched. The eggs might belong with the very first example, and then this says if sub is empty, blah blah blah, which has its own example. Maybe that would make it easier to follow.
Yeah. Yeah, statement and then example, statement and then example.
Right.
Okay.
Are you taking notes, or should I?
I'm taking a note right here. Yeah, I'll do that right now.
Thanks. All right. What's next? Stir.encode. Okay, so this example is attached to the paragraph. For performance reason, the value of errors is not checked for validity, blah blah blah. And then the errors argument is not actually used in the example.
Oops. Okay.
Right? So
Yeah.
this example should actually be attached to this here. Maybe we could have examples for encoding and errors, but I don't think that's really necessary.
Right. Okay.
And also this
So-
can be simplified. Or maybe you can just show Python.encode, which gives you bytes. Right?
Which let's see here. So that's line 1713. Okay. Okay.
Or maybe you could
Alright, so-
use a non-ASCII string.
Okay. That's a good idea.
But I mean, yeah, if you're dealing with encode, you probably want you probably need some idea of what bytes are. For beginners, this wouldn't make make much sense.
Right. So we should put yeah.
So if you
Something
don't know
else.
what UTF-8 is,
Mm.
this won't make sense. If you don't know what bytes are, this won't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't know what this B is, maybe on some learning path you know what bytes are, but don't know that Python marks them up with a B.
Right.
But if you use a non-ASCII example, it should be quite obvious, right? If you know what UTF-8 is and what bytes are, this should
Yeah.
be fine. Right? So a simple example like this attached to the very first statement would probably
Yeah.
be better. And then I don't think we really need examples for the encoding and errors.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Those examples would probably be better in this error handler section, somewhere else in the docs. It's probably better not to touch that in this pull request, but that would be a better place
Okay.
for explaining what that is. Right, what's next? Ends with and true, blah blah blah. What's with on? Okay, this just gives a true example, but that's probably fine. It can also be a tuple, then optional start, beginning at that position. Yeah, this should. I don't know what this is resolved, but yeah, this should. Oh, you probably did that in your local branch, right? So this should use a
Oh.
start and an end. Maybe this can just use one example for both of those.
Start and end. Yeah. Okay.
Right, what's next? There's an example for expand tabs. I don't think I've ever used that function.
I guess if you're writing an editor.
Yeah, or just plain text. Well, I guess if you If you display text on the terminal, it'll do this automatically. If the character is a new line or return, it is copied and the current column is reset to 0. So this really explains the algorithm rather than tells you what the function is doing, which I don't like that much, but I guess we're not rewording things here. Honestly, I would leave this unchanged. Or maybe move the... So this part explains what the function actually does. Right?
Yeah.
So maybe I would put the example after this part. And then leave all of the rest after the example. Just to give you details about the algorithm it uses. I don't think this actually belongs in documentation. Maybe this should just say, the function honors new lines and carriage returns, and that's it. But since we already have it, let's just put it after the example as additional detail. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Let me think about this for a second. I've got this down after. So basically I should move it back to the way it was.
No, I would put the example after these first two sentences.
Okay, to expand the string. Okay. Oh. The tab accept. I see. Okay.
Right. Maybe combine this example with the rest and just put this block of text after that.
Yep. Okay.
I mean, this is... if you're writing in an editor, you wouldn't use this anyway. Let's see. Expand tabs.
Yeah.
But... so this should all line up. Needs a print statement to line up. But if I use a weird character like an emoji...
Oh. Wow.
Can I copy this? Copy. Oops. It throws everything off. Right.
Oh,
So
I see. It is okay.
Yeah. Text in the terminal is unbelievably complicated, and this is quite simplistic. So I don't think anybody actually uses this in production, but it's been there since the start. Anyway, that was a digression. Let's move on to find. So this will find the string SP at position 0. Is the start of the string a good example?
I guess it's sort of obvious, isn't it? Unless, yeah, people should be.
I think looking for the comma
Oh,
would be nice. So what you could do here is
look at position 5.
like so this look for the comma, and then maybe index at what it found. I don't know. I'm trying to think how I would explain this to somebody who's learning Python and doesn't know what find does.
Yeah, I'll look for the comma.
Yeah, looking for the comma looks better here. And again, we have the optional arguments which are a bit advanced. I don't know if return -1 if sub is not found. Could use an example as well. It's probably more important than the start and end arguments. Right, format map. Similar to format mapping, except mapping is used directly and not copied to a dict. This is useful. So what is actually changed here? I don't think anything has changed here, is there? This is actually a doc test. I think this is also a doc test.
Oh, should I put in doc test then as a code block?
If I look at the current documentation for format map, this is already marked up as Python code by virtue of it starting with the chevrons.
Okay.
So this change doesn't do anything. It's fine to have it, but it's also fine just to put this in. Right. So no change needed there. Is alphanumeric? Oh, these are good. So space is alphanumeric. So nothing is not alphanumeric. ABC123 is. Put some symbols in, it's not. A space is also not.
Right.
Okay. Is alpha. This is a typo actually. I think it should be a common word, right?
Oh, right. A common word. Okay.
And I don't think we need as many weird symbols here. Maybe just the AE digraph. Because these are all examples of the same thing. Right?
Okay. Yes. I think that's right.
No, just one would be sufficient. Is ASCII... same thing here. Is decimal This is a very interesting function.
Yeah.
So this is decimal. And there's an example comparing is decimal to is digit.
Right.
So this is a tuple display, which I don't think is really necessary. You can split that out into two statements, because not
Oh,
many
I see.
people
Then we
know that you don't need to surround this with parentheses.
okay.
So if this is two statements, it might be better.
Yep.
Or maybe just keep the one that calls the function that's being documented.
Fair enough.
Or
Okay.
it is slower. These are pretty reasonable.
I'll do the same thing for the next. Yeah.
Is numeric. Yeah, that's again a triple here, so just keep the one. Maybe is numeric should go together with just a similar its digit, but I don't think this pull request should do that. Is printable. Okay, this is actually an example for the ASCII space.
Oh,
So this
okay.
example should move down here, and we should probably have an example with a word or something in the string. This looks like a special case.
Do you mean the ideographic space?
No, the ASCII space is considered printable.
The ASCII space.
Right, so
yeah, that one I put. Yeah.
Right, so I would move this example to down here.
Yep. Yeah.
This one is for the case where the string is empty, so that should remain here. But before that, I would like to have something, like a banana or something, that has some substance to it. This is
banana. Okay.
Starting with the special case. And it would also be nice to have an example of when it's true and when it's not true.
Okay.
Right, so maybe this is not printable, and if I put something in here, it's also not printable. Right, so if you give an example of banana is printable, but if you put a tab and a new line before it, or wherever in the string, then it becomes not all printable. That's probably a better example than that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That does make sense. Thank you. And I'm glad we're recording this so I can go back over it more carefully. Thanks.
Don't worry, if you make changes and I go over it again, I'll find something new, but it's
okay.
Probably better to just do one pass and merge it and then wait for further improvements down the line. So is space. So there's only one false example here.
Mm.
We should probably use a banana again, or spam and eggs, or whatever, just to
Okay.
just to give an example that this gives false, right? Next up is title. I guess that's fine. Nobody uses this function anyway.
The banana's back.
Banana's back. It's used pretty well. Join. Joining with commas, that's a very good example. That is a very good example, but what I would actually do is use, for example, a semicolon here. Because for beginners will be quite confused about all these apostrophes and the commas that are part of the string here but not here.
I see.
So if we use a semicolon here, it'll be a bit more clear, I think.
Okay.
Or maybe an ampersand to make it even more clear. Just to
Oh,
remove
yeah.
some of that confusion.
Yeah.
Can you tell I've been teaching beginners?
Yeah, no kidding. This is extraordinary.
So what do we have here? Left chest. So that's almost the example, the same examples as for center, but this sentence, the original string is returned if it is less than equal to len. That doesn't have an example attached, right? So if you do just with, I don't know, 4, it'll give you Python back. So I would either move this example to after this, or add an example for this case. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah. It's more balanced.
Lower is fine as it is. What is this one? Make trans. Okay. That's a tough one. I think you really need to see the documentation of translate to make any sense of what this means.
Hmm.
And the examples should probably also use translate to showcase what this actually does when it's used.
Okay.
But honestly, this is such an esoteric function that maybe it's best to leave it alone and not give the examples here at all.
Okay.
So what does this tell you? And if you don't already know what this does, so the example here doesn't really give you a quick overview of, or a quick idea of what the function does. That's the point of examples.
Yes. Yes.
Right. I don't think I can come up with an example that would do the job.
Fair enough.
Probably best to leave this alone. Maybe we'll come to the translate function and come up with something better. But honestly, translate is not a very useful function. Partition. Yeah. That works. Replace. So replacing a spam with eggs. Replacing one spam with eggs. Perfect. It's this one. rfind. So just for symmetry, so the SP works quite well here, but just for symmetry with the find, I would probably also change it to a comma. If you do that.
Okay.
Our index. That looks good. Our just. Oh, here it says blah blah blah, and it moves the original string is returned to after the example. Right, so this should be done in the ljust as well. Then we have our partition, which looks fine. Maybe it could use an example with something that doesn't appear in the string, but the reference to partition should be enough. Maybe this should actually say the same as partition, but it looks from it takes the last match or something like that. No, but this is fine. This is okay. Don't change that, except for the indentation here. rsplit. Yeah, looks good. Maybe it could use a few more numbers here, just to make it clearer. So if I use 4 and 5 and give it a max split of 2, might be a better example here.
Good. Yeah. Okay.
And now for split, I guess the examples are interleaved, right? So blah blah, then comes this example, which could also use a few more numbers just to make it clear what's happening. If separator is given, all right. So this is weird. The documentation first talks about max split, and only then about the separator.
Oh.
So what I would do here is not use the separator and just use split and spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then give the example with max split.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then introduce the
yeah.
the sep. That's a reasonable example. Sep may consist of multiple characters. Oh, and then it talks about the white space. Right, so for the initial example, just use a single space. And then use max split. And then there are examples here about how white space is handled. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah, it's more progressive that way.
Yeah. It's weird that
More incremental.
it does talk about max split first. Sep seems to be more important, but there's also a lot more to say about the separator, so the details are in the end.
Should I keep that? Do you want me to still keep that section of max split at the beginning, or do you want me to move the explanation of max split further down? Like, in other words, talk about separator first and then talk about max split.
I wouldn't do it in this commit, definitely.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Probably not.
Yes.
It.
Yeah. It's
But,
too many.
you know, once you get into rearranging the documentation itself, the scope of the pull request grows a lot. So let's keep it out of here, just to get something mergeable. Right, start with. Python starts with by. Can have prefixes. So, okay. Is that 7? I guess these examples again aren't that important, but let's keep them there. This doesn't really give us anything. Yeah, this example doesn't really tell you anything new, does it? It looks like.
No, I guess not. Yeah.
At this.
It's just just ignoring the rest of it. Yeah, it's just ignoring the rest of the string.
Yeah, but it already found the start here and returned true by the time it gets to the 15. So, I guess.
Oh, so I should put the.
I guess it's
Yeah,
there for
I should put the finding afterwards.
And if the example went like this, returned false because it's only looking at the 2 characters, that would make more sense.
Right. Okay.
But again, if you just quickly glance at this, it doesn't give you an idea of what the function is doing. You still have to read the text, right?
Yes.
So it's. I mean, it illustrates the text, so it's probably better than nothing, but it's not the best kind of example where you can just look at it and see what's going on. Yeah, but, well, 12 here would probably be best. Next up, swap case. Yeah, looks good. Has anybody ever used this function in production? Titles. So Python, when these were added, in like Python 1.0, Python was probably much more liberal with features.
Yes. Yeah, it was exciting to add a feature.
Yeah, I mean, we have this bunch of C code and it can swap cases of characters. Anyway, so for example is being removed here, that's great. C also being added, that's also great. What is this example for upper? What? There's no Korean letter A in this example.
Oh.
Oh, there is. It's just my browser not showing it.
Wow.
Okay.
I wonder if that'll happen in the rendered doc.
It probably depends on my browser.
Oh God. Huh.
It looks like it's not showing up at all. What is Korean letter A anyway? Well, one thing we could do is write it like this with a /n. But what I would do is just use this example and put that right after the initial sentence,
Okay.
and then just give this technical note after the example and not put this there. Because I mean, you don't need a Korean letter A for this. If you have a space and convert it to uppercase and then ask if it's uppercase, you also get false. Right? So maybe that would make a better example. Like instead of this weird letter, do 2 spaces.
Oh, okay.
Something like that. This C also is very useful. It's being added everywhere. I love that.
Mm.
So, what's going on here? Oh, this is rewrapping? Oh, yeah, this is rewrapping. And that's it. So that took almost an hour.
Thank you so much. That's awesome.
And I see somebody joined. If you'd like to introduce yourself, I just noticed.
Oh, it's the man, Adam.
The man?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm the man.
You're the Sphinx Master.
I think that's a different
No,
Adam.
for sure not. I think you're
Different
thinking of
Adam.
someone entirely different.
Different Adam. Oh, it's the other Adam. Sorry.
That's all right.
Well, sorry for only noticing you now.
No, I just kind of snuck in to watch.
That's fine. So this turned more into an office hours and a review of a pull request than working on documentation, like grammar in docs. Hopefully it was
I thought it was
interesting
great.
anyway.
For sure.
Yeah, you want to listen to the recording because I slept through the most interesting part and arrived late.
Yeah, so I was thinking about making this more into office hours than working into a project because that sounds more interesting, and sometimes there's nothing to talk about and that's the time to continue working on the project.
Yeah, for sure. I actually had a question. If you would be able to add like a role that's pingable or something, so that when these office hours start, people can get pings.
So there's an event at Discord.
Oh, okay. Great.
So sign
I
up to
didn't
that and
check.
you should get a ping there. Also, there's a text channel that might get pings. But adding yourself to the event is probably the way to do this.
Sure. That's great.
Right.
And then I know this is all fairly new, but if I had something that I wanted you to take a look at, would you want me to send that ahead of time? Is there a place to put that? Is it just drop in and see what's good, or what?
So given that, so if you want me to cover it on the stream, then it's probably better to just join and ask.
Great.
If you just want me to look at it, then ping me like this, and that will add it into my 200-line long to-do list. I'll eventually
Yeah.
get to it.
Sure.
It's unusually long after PyCon. Still going through all of that.
I can imagine.
Yeah, but if you're here and we can talk in person, that's a perfect time to explain stuff and add some nuance and back and forth.
Yeah, I had no meetings today during this time, so I was able to drop in and check it out.
Perfect. Anyway, we are out of time. It's 6 p.m. for me. So I guess this is a good time to wrap it up. Thank you for your attention.
Awesome, thanks for
and
doing this.
See you next week.
That's great. Thanks so much. Bye bye, everyone.